Welcome back, everyone, to Tunic. We have reached the point where I am still trying to rebuild my character. So I have to find a couple more heroes' graves in order to fully unlock all my powers again, including attack and magic and health. So here's hoping I can find those quickly. Also, here's another page of the guidebook. There's a... I don't know how many, probably half of whatever the total number is. We'll say 60 pages, so maybe less than that even. I don't know. I don't know how many total pages there are. We'll pretend there's 25 pickups, or 30 maybe. I don't know. We have to remember, I have to remember rather, I picked up 3 of them in the, yeah, so I've only unlocked speed so far. I have to remember that I picked up 3 of them in the archives, the floating library thing. So here's a quick story. Quick as a odd term, because I never tell quick stories. But here's a quick story. So, excuse me. I drive to and from work every day, and there's this little 1-lane bridge. It's probably about 1.5 lanes, to be honest, that I drive over, and there's a creek. And I've noticed in the last couple months that the creek seems to be filled with a lot of debris, because basically so you understand, basically the way they have the creek design is it goes it's more or less flat, and then it hits this area, and then it drops down sort of like a waterfall, or there's probably a more specific term for what you call one of those when you know, you make it so that you have lots of room underneath the bridge so it doesn't flood. Anyways, I noticed on that area where there's a little bit of a fall, that it started getting clogged up with a lot of branches, because basically a couple branches have grown up. Terrible power rises, world is thrown into chaos. A power to defy death. Okay, there's something more to this, clearly. I think we could figure that out from the fact that we ended up in the underground area that was like really high-tech / dark magic-y, if you will. Bear with me on that one. Anywho, that's great. Alright, well, let's not be in here any longer than we need to be. Okay, I've been in here too long. I ate all my health. So anyways, in this little area where the water goes underneath the bridge, like I said, it's been clogged up by sticks, and the way I'd looked at it a couple times, driving across the bridge over the last couple months, and I noticed that there were looks like there were some old dead trees that may have been growing up in and around that area, causing a clog. So just because that area is prone to flooding, if, the water isn't moving and it gets backed up really badly, I went and kind of took a stick and did a small portion of this blockage, so that the water would start to at least flow through a portion of this blockage and hopefully drain out that area. And then I came back about 3 days later to find that the hole I had made had been blocked back up. And I just, debris came back and it just needs to be undone again. I got down there near the creek bed and found out that no, we have what I was afraid of, which I didn't want to originally admit. I think that's a beaver dam. So, like, I shouldn't touch, on the one hand, I shouldn't touch the beaver dam because that's what the beavers are doing. I mean, I could see that there was trees put down with, looks like gnaw marks on it, so they clearly gnawed this tree down and put the thing where it was at to block up the hole I created. I'm like, okay, great. So, to make a long story short, I'm going to leave the beaver dam alone going forward. I'm not going to bother it again, and if the township so decides that the beavers are a problem, they can deal with it on their own, but I don't live along the creek, so I don't... It's part of the reason why I'm not going to mess with it again. I don't live along the creek area, so I don't have to worry about if the beavers back up the dam really, or we back up the water really badly, and we get a really heavy downpour and it starts to flood the low-lying areas. You know, I just kind of feel bad for the people that, I mean, there's at least a dozen homes down that way along the street before it starts to go up the hill. So you're gonna have a lot of, provided you get a pretty substantial downpour, you could have some kind of bad flooding because of that. But whatever, right? One of those situations where you're fucked if you do and you're fucked if you don't. You know, well, I'm not personally fucked at all. I mean, I just figured, you know, I drive over this what's it called, every day. You know, every day there is an alternative way to go that doesn't put me over the creek. You know, so in case the creek does flood and you can't bypass the low-lying areas because it's flooded out, there's an alternate direction I can go to get out of my neighborhood, but sort of a long way around. But at the same time, I don't want to harm a beaver's dam, because I don't know what the ecological impact, well, not ecological, the legal impact of that is. So, you know, like, beavers are protected. You can't bother their dens. Okay, great. Thanks. Didn't know that. And at the same time, I don't know if anyone actually cares either. You know? Probably depends on where you live, I imagine. Like, if you live, like, say, out in a place where a beaver's dam is part of the ecological portion of a river, you know, it helps the ecosystem. I imagine that's probably a pretty big problem to mess with them. On the other hand, I very much know that there is very little, if anything, that stops human development. It might stop it temporarily, but as soon as a different group of people get into power, that can go away very fast. So I finally unlocked the last teleport area, or the next to last teleport area, if I haven't unlocked them all at this point. So I imagine, since I can't get over there, there's probably either a back way to get in there, or that teleport pad is hiding a secret, is what I should say. So you're not supposed to access it from this side, but from the other world side, you know. There's a couple of variations of that if you play Zelda, you know, like Spectacle Rock. It's the one that I think of in Link to the Past. Is you can only get access to Spectacle Rock by being on the light side of the world, but you need to go to Spectacle Rock in order to get an item that's important for you to continue with the game. Stop! I don't want to fight you. You don't have enough HP, and because you're darkness, you're eating all my health. My total health, that is, max health. Anyways, that's my dumb story from this past week. Like, oh, it's just getting blocked up. I'll just unblock this. Oh, it's a beavers thing. I shouldn't be touching this. Probably. Not sure when this episode's going to air, so I'm going to kind of keep my mouth shut about my Panthers. They got humiliated at home by Notre Dame. They got 2 more games to go as of this recording. One's against Georgia Tech, one's against Miami. And because I'm kind of far ahead on my recordings right now, this episode may come out after both of those games are already played. If I had to guess, though, off the top of my head, we'll probably have a pretty good chance against Georgia Tech. I know Georgia Tech has a really good quarterback this year. We're not playing Notre Dame again, you know? And I understand Notre Dame pretty much shut down all aspects of the offense. But again, there's a difference between playing possibly one of the 5 best teams in the country this year and playing, you know, a team that's not on that level, you know. If you were to say to me, Chris, some happenstance, we'll just say. I mean, obviously this isn't going to happen except probably either Pitt making a playoff or them for some reason scheduling this team during a regular season game. But if Pitt were to play Ohio State, we'll say this year, we won't talk about future Panther Pro. We won't talk about future Ohio State programs because as dominant and as thorough as Ohio State has been in the 25 or so years I've really paid attention to college football, they've had very few, if any, downturns. So much so that they have the best, if you take the last 25 years, they have the best record, win-loss record in all of college football. Number 2, I believe, is Boise State. But you wouldn't say that Boise State has necessarily played the same caliber teams that Ohio State has. Argue, etc. But to get to the point of what I'm trying to say, if Pitt were to play Ohio State, this year's Ohio State team, they would lose. They'd be lucky if the game was any more competitive than the Notre Dame game was. You know, losing by 20, 30 points, scoring maybe 14 to 17 points max. Probably, much like the Pitt game, at least 7 of those points coming on the defensive side of things. But no, I mean, they would get crushed. Look, I mean, you want to be a homer for your team, you know, that's fine. You know, you want to talk about how insert your team here. No one can ever beat them. They're the greatest team ever. But you got to get down to reality, and that is your team has things that they do really well, and they have things that they don't do super well, okay? And the idea is you want to have everything. You want to have a great offensive line, a great defensive line, linebacking, secondary, running back, a running game, a passing game. You know, you want the whole kit and caboodle. And it's very difficult to do because it's difficult to put all those pieces together at the same time and make a run unless you are like Ohio State, constantly recruiting, constantly coaching up their players, and, you know, essentially creating a set of expectations that if you come to Ohio State, you're going to compete for championship, national championship. But in saying that, we will recruit and scout the best players in the United States, and we will try to get as many of them as possible to give us the best chance to win a national title. So you could be some 5-star all-time greatest high school recruit of all time, but you come into Ohio State, you don't compete. You will never play a snap. You know, because you've got, the best quarterback in Michigan or the best quarterback in Ohio or wherever competing against the best quarterback the prior year or one of the best. And the same goes at a high level program. Same goes for every position from top to bottom. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to create a situation where you recruit too many high caliber, what do you call them, position. I don't the puzzle clearly, but I gotta figure it out. I don't see how this is like. Well, I can guess, but I'm not 100% sure either. Anywho, I'll come back to this later. But you don't want to. You can never. I don't think you can have too many great offensive linemen or defensive linemen but you can have clog at your quarterback position. You can have a clog at your running back position. Because at best you're going to have, I don't know. Let's say you run a triple option attack. Okay, so you're going to have a quarterback, a fullback, and 2 running backs or some variation thereof. Okay, and then that of course will ignore the fact that, technically speaking, your tight ends could also be used in that, and wide receivers can be used in that situation as well. But that would be about the best situation you would have, where you would have a quarterback, 2 running backs, and a fullback for clogging up the run by committee sort of thing. So I understand you can have too many running backs on a team, particularly if they're all the same age, class, whatever you want to call them. But again, to get to my point, you gotta do it every year. You gotta recruit the best players you can get, and then after you're done, you have to take that talent, whatever it is, whether it's A talent or F talent, and you have to try to coach it up to the best of your ability. And there are teams that according to recruiting rankings, which I don't fully buy into, because if I did, Pitt would never be more than a 7-5, 6-6 team, because they always rank somewhere in the middle of the pack. Anywhere, I think their best recruiting class in like the last 5-10 years, I think they finished somewhere like in the mid-30s. Okay. Whereas if you're a program like, I don't know, Miami is a great example, Florida State is a great example, you're consistently producing, provided you're not overfilled on scholarships and you have limited scholarships to give out in a year, you're generally finishing somewhere in the top 25 each year. So that means, based on your recruiting class, if you recruit, say let's say the 10th best class, okay, the 10th best class in the year, in the country every year, for we'll say for 10 years, you should legitimately be competing for conference titles. You should be legitimately finishing 10-2 every year, because according to your recruiting rankings, which again I don't wholly believe in. You can obviously look at a star running back or quarterback and go, this guy's going to be super talented if he can keep his head on straight, But I don't know. Pitt shouldn't be as good as it is, based on recruiting rankings. I think some of that has to do with the fact that they seem to find talent at their position places, and then they're sort of left with, I wouldn't say the scraps, they're left with sort of leftover players to fill the lines, the positions that are super important if you want to win a championship, but aren't as important if I want to say if you know how to use the pieces right, it's a vague way of explaining it. I'm trying to figure out how to get into the eastern woods now, by the way. Just a lot of blackness, a lot of cut off locations. Hello, sir. Oh, you just have a piece of the guide for me. Interesting. Okay, well, you're telling me, I think you're telling me what that hero statue is going to do, which is the hero statue is made up of what, six blocks. You're telling me which one's which, but I don't think it's going to really matter because I'm not going to take on the final boss till I've got everything back. I mean, I'm not going to go fight the boss if I don't have my full defense. I'm not going to go fight her, if I don't have my, full attack back, my full HP back. I mean, about the only thing I could possibly give up and go back and try and fight the final boss is if I was, say, missing, say, the magic portion of this. I might be able to do this without without my magic fully back to normal. But that's hard to say. Anyhow. I sort of went on a long ramble about recruiting, college football, and I think coaching's more important than recruiting. But again, you take a player that is like a C-level player, C-level talent player, okay? And you have one of the best motivators, one of the best coaches with a great staff. Yeah, you're going to get more out of that C-level player than a bad coach or a mediocre coach will ever get out of an A or S tier player. I get that. And some of that is managing what's between, what's in your noggin, If I say to you, hey, you're the greatest person since sliced bread, and you believe it, you don't practice, you don't work out, you think you can just rest on your laurels, and that'll only take you so far, You always constantly have to be working out. And you see that a lot in the NFL too, where you find guys that have never played a college down, or if they have, it's been sort of at a low level. And then next thing you know, you turn around and you've got a fucking Joey Porter, It's like, yeah, he played football in college, but like he never really made an NFL roster until he actually started to take everything more seriously. Like every weight session, every down, that was his challenge. His challenge was this down, this lift, this squat, this whatever. This was my challenge for today, is to continue to try to push myself further. And obviously your physical body as you age starts to change, and eventually those things sort of limit to what you can do. But again, like I said, you get more out of a player like that who's got the determination and some skill set. Or I guess you could say the opposite too. I mean, if he had not gotten his head around, you could say, well, he had all the talent in the world, he just couldn't seem to get out of his own way, And I get that. I get the fact that, like, hey, some people can't get out of their own way. I get that. But sort of the long story short is, like, you've heard it said 100 times before probably, but like the mental aspect of a game is 90% the difference between winning and losing. The other 10% is skill. Now, that also, of course, depends on who we're talking about. If you can't throw a 40-yard bomb down the field, you're not gonna. Well, you could probably train yourself to get close to that, but you're not probably ever gonna throw the deep bomb, because you don't got the arm for it, or you don't have the accuracy for it. I don't know, but so your talent does take you a decent. Oh, that was bad. Your talent does take you a decent degree forward, but I mean, I hate to use him because I don't I don't like cockiness too much. I mean, I understand it's in the game. I'm not going to get angry if someone's going to do something. It's like, oh, he taunted my player. Well, yeah, I get that. And you want to put a line in the sand somewhere and say, okay, that's over the line there. But, you know, if you didn't stop him and, you know, you get one of them, was it Jason Kelsey or whatever his name is? Every time he gets a first down, he gets down on his knee and does the first down sign. You know, it's a bit of a, you know, a thing that he uses to hype himself up, but it's also kind of taunting. But if you don't like it, stop him. You know, that's sort of always been the big football mentality thing, is like, you don't like it, just stop. You play better and stop it, you know. But anywho, yeah, it's just, I don't know. Again, back to my original point. I think Pitt will beat Georgia Tech. I know Georgia Tech's having a great year. Their offense seems unbeatable, but they're not Notre Dame. They're not Ohio State. Pitt played pretty well against Notre Dame. Obviously, they couldn't keep up because their offense had nothing. Like literally, well, not literally nothing. I mean, they scored let's see here. We had a garbage time touchdown that shouldn't count. We had a pick six on the goal line. So yeah, I mean it wasn't a good day for Pitt. It wasn't a good showing, but you know, again, Georgia Tech is not Notre Dame. So they'll probably beat Georgia Tech. I don't know, maybe close. 3 points, 6 points, whatever. Depends if their kicker's healthy or not. And then after that, they'll go play Miami. I may have mentioned this earlier in the season. I thought their schedule was a little tough going into the season. I thought they would lose to Miami and Notre Dame and Florida State. Well, Florida State stinks. Okay, they did lose to Notre Dame, but they also lost to West Virginia, Louisville. Not great, but you don't get to Mason Einshell unless those losses happen, because otherwise you continue along the path with their former quarterback Eli Holstein, and he wasn't gonna win you games. I mean, he was probably good enough to get you to, provided he did. I mean, he was such a fucking headache to deal with this season. I mean, no offense to the guy or anything, but he didn't seem to be in tune with his wide receivers. He was making bad decisions. He had a bomb of an arm, but like when it came down to the goal line, it was like, okay, you threw a 40-yard pass down the line to your wide receiver, but you can't throw the 2-yard screen to score the touchdown. You throw it right directly into the opposing player's numbers. So yeah, you don't get to where we're at without those two losses. But yeah, I mean, when you look back at it, you go, man, if he just started, he wouldn't have started. Period. True freshman over experienced quarterback that was coming back for his senior season. No, the story doesn't make any sense. Okay? So yeah, you leave him on the bench for a year, and then you try him out next year in spring training, spring camp, and you see where he's at, and you go from there. Provided he doesn't transfer, of course. Do I think they'll beat Miami? I don't know. That's 50-50. Depends on when Miami shows up. Good Miami shows up, they'll lose by 2 touchdowns or more. Bad Miami shows up, Pitt beats them by 30. That's my opinion. Alright, we're going to the monastery. One of the interesting parts about this world, this dark world, light world, is that we don't seem to run into anything. Also, I should put my fucking gas mask on. Okay. No good. Oh, hello, sir. I did not expect to see you. I am ill prepared for this.